Okay.
That's true. Everybody's got to greet everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everybody here today. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for wearing your masks. That's very, very nice of you. We appreciate that very much. Arvid and I have done our COVID test today, so we get to not wear a mask up here, but we will join y'all later. So good morning and welcome to our hybrid worship service of Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Lynn and I'm service associate for today. We are so happy to have attendees again, as well as folks joining us virtually from their homes on Zoom. Just want to mention we are recording today's service and we'll turn it off for the community gathering. Those of you who want to participate in the community gathering, you might want to stay seated afterward, and then those who want to maybe do some socially distanced visiting outside will kind of quietly, but we all want to wait for Eleanor's announcement. So don't anybody leave until Eleanor makes her announcement. So if you are in the sanctuary, please silence your cell phones, just in case we've all forgotten how to do that. And anything else that might make noise. Okay, so thank you all for being here. And Barbara will now do our prelude.
1970, Motown, Marvin Gaye. We've got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. Talk to me so you can see what's going on.
Thank you, Barbara. So Summit UU Fellowship is an inclusive community whose shared principles of love and compassion bring us together. We aspire to the principles and purposes that are listed on the back of the order of service. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to Summit, feel free to go to our website, summituuf.org, and click on the visitors button, and someone will have a delightful chat with you, I promise. We do want to acknowledge that our fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land, and that for more than 10,000 years, this land has been and continues to be home to the Kumeyaay people. We recognize the violent history of colonization in California and honor the legacy of the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. And now we'll do our chalice lighting. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. Now we'll have the UU hymn on video.
Bajo el gran sol, surja esperanza, fe, amor, verdad y belleza cantando de cada tierra, cada voz.
From all who dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
Please join me while masked. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. So we don't know if Mary's here or is Mary in RE?
I'm here. I'm in RE.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
I'm here.
Turning it over to Mary.
Okay, let me see if I can get this so I can see it. I'm having some technical difficulty. There we go. Good morning. I'm back in RE. I'm here with Ulma. She's visiting today and I'm going to do the story for you. And my story today, it comes from the country of India. It's a folk tale. So I don't have anybody to credit it to, but it is in our Tapestry of Faith curriculum, which is curriculum that the UUA provides for us. So this is called The Prince and the Rhinoceros. So are you ready? Okay, so once upon a time in India, a rare rhinoceros was born with skin so beautiful it almost glowed. And this rhinoceros was given to a noble prince who was very, very lonely and whose kingdom did not have a lot of resources. So the prince was so delighted with the unusual animal and the unusual gift that he laughed joyfully and he named the little calf Great Joy. So this is Great Joy. And in case you're wondering, normally rhinos have a pointy little horn here. This was put out by a wild republic and the horn is cut off because that's what they do to, the rhinoceros calves in the wild to prevent their horns from being harvested by poachers. So that helps to keep him safe to have his horn cut off. So the prince treated the rhino with great kindness. He fed her rice and fruit and choice tender plants, and he always spoke with a kind, gentle voice. Great joy grew and was happy. And the prince thought great joy was quite beautiful. At sunrise, she would be golden in the sun. And at sunset, she would be a canvas of pink and red and orange, and later in dark blue of evening as the light changed. Sometimes after a rain, she would shift everything around her. She would reflect everything around her because she'd be wet. So she'd be like a big mirror. And she seemed almost enchanted. "You are so wonderful and special to me," the prince whispered softly. In time, great joy grew into an enormous rhino. Now, this is a baby plushie, so imagine this one being very big. Big rhino. A big rhino would fill this room. They're quite large. So she grew up to very, very big. And she was very strong. And one day she thought about her good life with the prince and what she could give him in return. "I am only a rhino," she thought, "but I can use my strength to help him earn gold for his kingdom, so he can have more resources." See, she suggested to the prince that she compete in a contest of strength against the town's strongest bull. So a rich merchant with many fine oxen agreed to the wager. Great joy would pull 100 load of wagons, usually towed by his team of 8 oxen. She could do it all by herself. And the bet was 1,000 gold pieces. So the next day, the prince inspected the wagons and harnessed Great Joy to the front. And then he climbed into the driver's seat. And Great Joy waited for a few kind words of encouragement before starting. Instead, the prince, thinking only of gold, waved a whip in the air and shouted, "Pull, you wretch! Move, you worthless rhino!" Well, Great Joy was shocked at her beloved prince's words. "Wretch? Worthless? I am no wretch," she thought. "I am not worthless either." She stiffened her huge legs and refused to move an inch. Humiliated, the prince ran home and hid in his bed. "I'm ruined," he cried. Well, Great Joy was filled with pain and sorrow, and she needed to understand what she'd done to deserve such cruel insults. And after many days and nights without food or sleep, she went to the prince's palace, which had grown shabby due to its impoverished state. "Oh, prince, in all of our years together, have I ever done anything to hurt you?" she said. "No, never," said the prince. "Then why did you say those terrible things to me? Was the thought of gold worth more than what I can offer?" The prince hung his head. Tears ran down his face. "The gold, it distracted me. I forgot the importance of our friendship, and I am so ashamed," he said. "Then I will try again," Great Joy said. "Go back to the merchant and double your bet." Again, the carts were loaded, and Great Joy was harnessed to the front, and the prince climbed up into the seat, and he sang out, "All right, you marvelous marvel, you splendid rhino, my great joy, it is up to you." And the powerful rhino snorted and pawed the ground and charged forward. Her sides heaved as she pulled until the last cart crossed the finish line. And the townspeople cheered wildly, and they covered her with garlands of flowers and strands of tinkling bells. The prince collected his 2,000 pieces of gold and then humbly thanked Great Joy. "Thank you for a job well done." And that evening, the prince and the rhino walked along the river in the red glow of sunlight. "I didn't mean to say those hateful words to you," the prince whispered. "Please forgive me." "I already have," said Great Joy. And that is how they lived forever after, in friendship and great love. Never again did an unkind word pass between them. So that is my story for you today. Our words have power. They have power to make great change, and they have power to cause harm. And we need to remember that. So thank you for listening.
Today, by the way, I don't know if she had one. Okay, and is Eleanor here? Eleanor, did you want to say something right now or later?
I'm going to speak later.
Okay, very good, Eleanor. Okay, well, I know you can see on the back the bio for Reverend Dr. Arvid Straube. So I thought it would be fun to add something that maybe we haven't heard, or maybe we haven't heard enough. And that is that, did you know that the Reverend Dr. Arvid Straube was named the 2014 Minister Emeritus from Eno River UU Fellowship in Durham, North Carolina? It's quite an honor. And we also know that he's a great friend of Summit, and we're so grateful to welcome him to our pulpit.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Really see you. I have a new favorite blog. It's called Sunday Paper, and it's put out by Maria Shriver, former First Lady of California. I love this blog because she always has a column that's thoughtful and hopeful, and she also shares commentaries and news stories that are deeply insightful, that go underneath the yelling and screaming to try to understand our world and our nation, and also sharing a lot of good news that doesn't make it to some of our news outlets. And this is from her July 7th column. Now, to understand this, it's important to know that the English word for gospel comes from the Greek word for good news. Here it goes. Preach the gospel at all times. Use words only when necessary. I've heard that message echoed in church many times, but I share it with you this morning because I believe it is especially pertinent today. Spreading good news, being a messenger of what's good in the world, is something we can all be doing today. Think about it. We don't even have to speak or write something to spread love, compassion, kindness, or goodness. It's all about how we show up in the world. Are you a messenger of hope, love, and good news? Or are you stuck in a cycle of negativity and doom? pointing fingers and spreading bad news. Here's the truth, though. Things will not get better unless each of us commits to making good on our mission. Better will not come easily. It's hard work. That's why I love the speech that Carol Lawson, Duke University's women's basketball coach, gave this past week. She said, "We wait for stuff to get easier. It will never get easier. What happens is you handle hard better." A few weeks ago, my daughter Christina went to a workshop. She said there they spoke about the truth that sustainable change happens in what they call 2-degree shifts, small adjustments that have a monumental impact over time. 2-degree shifts, she was told, have the power to change how you see and experience the world. 2 degrees is possible, achievable, manageable. It can make a big difference. Now, you may be sitting there thinking that 2 degrees is nothing, but it's actually big. It can be life-changing. Imagine if you made it your mission to simply improve your ability to be a messenger of good by 2 degrees every day. Imagine if every day you showed up just a little bit better in the world than you did the day before. I know these are hard times. They are really, really hard times for millions. People are struggling with inflation, gas prices, and a sense of hopelessness, grief, and despair. I know millions of Americans believe our country is on the wrong track. I've read the polls. I know others are warning us on a daily basis about the threat to our democracy and calling us to safeguard it, lest we lose what we hold dear. Yes, these times require perseverance, strength, and hope. We can only get through these times if we believe we can do what Coach Lawson told us we could do. We can only get through these times, I believe, if we each commit to something larger than ourselves. I believe we can rise up if we believe we can make a difference in another person's life.
Okay. So I'll tell you what my script says. My script says that the ushers in the sanctuary will collect the offering, but I don't know if there are any ushers today. There are. Oh, yay. Okay, so I will go with my little script. Okay, our members and friends who make voluntary monthly contributions are the lifeblood of our congregation. If you're moved to make a contribution to our virtual plate today, perhaps in celebration of our in-gathering, we encourage you to do so. The link can be found in the chat box and it will take you directly to the donation location. And for those in the sanctuary, the ushers will be gratefully accepting your generous donations during the musical interlude. Thank you.
Composer William Dawson is remembered for his choral arrangements of spirituals. This piece by Zenobia Powell Perry, entitled Homage, was written in honor of Dawson's 90th birthday and based on the spiritual I've Been Buked and Scorned.
Thank you, Barbara. The great first century Rabbi Hillel said, in a world where no one is behaving as a human being, you must behave as a human being. In a world where no one is behaving as a human being, you must behave as a human being. And that's a choice that we make day by day, hour by hour, moment by moment. In her book, 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life, religion scholar Karen Armstrong reminds us that we all have the most primitive part of our brain that has evolved to allow us to survive, actually to evolve to be the complex beings that we are today. We couldn't be here without that survival brain that actually is very primitive and that we share with reptiles. And the problem is that we've evolved to the point where sometimes the impulses and instincts that come out automatically from this primitive brain are unhelpful and even harmful. What comes from them, from that part of us, is, she reminds us, is what the scientists call, who study evolutionary biology, call the 4 F's. We fight, we flee, we freeze, and the 4th is something that has to do with reproduction. Luckily, we humans have evolved a higher and more complex brain that allows us to solve complex problems and more important, that allows us to see the world from other people's points of view. It allows us to have empathy, kindness, and love. And while it may not be our first instinct, we have the power to choose to act from the human part of our brain. Some months ago, I was sharing with a good and wise friend my frustration and despair about the anger, shaming, and blaming that had been going on in our movement and in our progressive movement in general. I was really upset and angry myself, wondering what could happen, wondering what would happen. And my friend calmly said, you know, all of these thoughts and all of this behavior that you're worried about is coming out of fear. And there is no solution that will come from the level of fear. Solutions have to come from the higher vibration of love. Any responses that are going to work can't come from fear. They need to come from love. Our responses to be effective have to overcome the natural tendency to fear. So we can choose to respond from the human side of our brain. We can choose to show kindness, compassion, empathy, and understanding. These are actually what love means. There seems to be more hatred in the world daily. Enmity, division, constant dehumanizing and demonizing. We have an outrage industrial complex and scores of conflict entrepreneurs who gain fame and fortune stoking that fear and hatred. We have white supremacists and militia groups and neo-Nazi groups who are praying for, lusting for violence and civil war. Unfortunately, the left is not entirely immune from this. Even there, it's difficult for some of us to disagree passionately without wanting to dominate and humiliate people who disagree. And often it seems like there's a lot of finding of enemies and identifying people to hate and dismiss. You know, it's really natural to be afraid. These are scary times. I'm afraid a lot. I'm afraid a lot. But we can remind ourselves more and more to act out of love and not fear, even if it's only 2 degrees every day, and 2 degrees the next day, and 2 degrees the next day. I'm not saying that it's easy for me, or you haven't heard my mutterings when I read the paper each morning. I have a problem with looking for who to blame for all this. Who do I blame? Who's at fault? You know, if we could only find these people, if we could only straighten them out, if we could only shut them up. And sometimes I even wish them harm before I catch myself. I fail to respond out of love all the time. But it helps so much if I can remember the great rabbi's words. In a world where no one is behaving as a human being, you must behave as a human being. So here are some things to consider that I think can help. The Buddha taught us about right speech. He taught that right speech means that before we speak, we ask ourselves these questions. Is what I'm about to say true? Is what I'm about to say kind? Is what I'm about to say helpful? Is it the right time and the right place for me to say this? You know, so much harm has always been done by unconscious speech, as the story illustrates, but this is especially true when unskillful speech is magnified in 24-hour news cycles and on social media. So imagine if we were to put out right speech on social media. And speaking of news and social media, we can also limit exposing ourselves to the hate and fear-mongering that's constantly doled out by the outrage industrial complex, which is overwhelmingly from the right-wing fringes of our society, but also, alas, sometimes from the left. If it dehumanizes or if it seeks to humiliate or dominate opponents, I'd say stay away from them, unfollow them, don't watch them. Don't let them pollute your mind with fear and hatred. You know, I was raised in the era of Walter Cronkite and Eric Sevareid and was taught that good citizens stay informed about current affairs. Were you? Is that what you thought? Is that what you were taught? Yeah. But now even more reputable news sources tend to lead with the sensational, the speculative, the shocking, and the conflict. And so you might want to limit that too. And I think maybe the most important thing is to act, even in small ways. Folk singer and activist Joan Baez said that action is the antidote to despair. Action is the antidote to despair. It can be small. Just to look for opportunities in your day-to-day life, to act with kindness and helpfulness to the people in your life and even the strangers you encounter, even with things such as smiles and kind words and choking back rudeness. We can volunteer to help those suffering and in need. We can get involved in movements that seek to heal and transform human suffering. And we can even get involved with the activism that seeks to transform those unjust systems. Now, this is more difficult. Why is that true? Because it has to be strong words to power. It has to show might and conviction and a big, loud no, this cannot continue without demonizing and dehumanizing our opponents. As Maria Shriver writes, you may be sitting there thinking that 2 degrees is nothing, but it's actually big. It can be life-changing. Imagine if you made it your mission to simply improve your ability to be a messenger of good by 2 degrees every day. Imagine if every day you showed up just a little bit better in the world than you did the day before. Hatred and fear are powerful, but love prevails. As the old Quaker hymn says, since love prevails on heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? Amen.
My life goes on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, no far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost heart, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
Although the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths. Since first I learned to love it, no storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? Keep singing. Keep singing.
We're going to extinguish this chalice and then turn it over to Eleanor. I wondered if those of you who haven't much practice in reading in unison would like to read it with me. The closing words at the bottom of the page. If you want to join me, we'll get some practice in. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And I invite you to stay afterwards for community gathering, and also that you know who's in the pulpit next week. It's Grace Lewis McLaren.